Hello, Oscar.
Hello.
You had a really cool and sick gag that I just shot down that you wanted to do, but I didn't allow you to do.
I don't think that's true.
Do you want to do it?
Up? No.
You can do it now.
If I wanted to do the gag, I would have done it regardless, but I don't want to go against your very fine sensibilities and frail things when it comes to such matters.
Ungagged and rebagged. We haven't done this for a while.
Done what?
This.
Oh yeah, this. Yeah, not for a pretty long while.
Do you know exactly how long?
3 months, maybe?
I have no idea, so I'm gonna go with that. 3 months.
Yeah, that's when the last video was uploaded.
Yes, so presumably more than 3
more
months.
than 3 months.
3.5 maybe.
Yeah.
I have, during that time, not done too much.
Not me either, really. We've done some things, but I think getting into those things is a bit, I'll just put something here to, describe properly what we've been spending that time doing.
Well, that's good, because I frankly can't remember.
Yeah, me neither. I'm sure it wasn't that important.
No. Today we have things to discuss. I just realized I've written down all my stuff on my phone, which is now recording you. I have uncharacteristically not printed out a paper as an old person. I decided to go with the flow and be digital, and it has instantly bit me in the ass.
I have all my notes in my phone.
Yes, but your phone is useless and not doing anything, so you get to have that. What are we talking about today, Oscar?
I think that today we're talking about 2 Star Wars games. The first one is Star Wars Lethal Alliance for the PlayStation Portable Ops. And then we have a pretty big game that I really want to talk about, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Have you ever heard of this game?
Isn't it the other way around? I thought it was Revenge of the Sith versus KOTOR.
Well, it is now, because I've said so, and that's what it says in my notes.
You're probably correct.
I know I'm correct. I'm trying to be polite because
well,
I would like
you to double check.
I don't know where to double check this.
Today we're talking about Lethal Alliance versus KOTOR.
Yes.
Yes.
Those are the games we're talking about.
Yes.
No mistakes.
No.
So, which one should we start with?
Well, I have thought about this for a little bit, and there's a sort of interesting proposition here. There's really no point for us to discuss a game in length if we're not gonna cut it, right? That's the format. Because that game will show up again, and showing up again will mean we get to talk about it again. So if we discuss something at length and then end up not cutting it, we'll just have nothing next time around, right?
Okay.
Logically speaking, right?
Sure. Which one are we cutting?
Well, I don't remember anything about Lethal Alliance.
I remember.
Basically, I remember that it's on PSP. It has a fucked up Kyle Katarn.
You play as a weird Twi'lek.
Yes, I remember that part.
The entire game runs in slow motion, except the cutscenes, which run very quickly.
I think that might have been the emulator.
There's no proof of that.
No. And I do remember the fact that we couldn't fight the final boss.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't think we didn't fight the final boss because it didn't work.
It probably crashed or something.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't have that much to say about Lethal Alliance.
Yeah, okay.
Get in there!
So Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic is kind of a big deal in Star Wars gaming.
Yes.
Because at the time of its release, there had been no Star Wars RPG, or at least no RPG game released. So it was seen as kind of a cool novelty that, we get to play, a Dungeons and Dragons style game that takes place in Star Wars. It was also...
it literally uses Dungeons and Dragons 3.5, I think.
And it was also one of the first, major release console RPGs of that type. Because before then, most you'd have maybe like weird ports of the Diablo, stuff like that. But this was like one of the first, if you would like to call it that, like cinematic RPGs, the BioWare formula and so on, that were designed for console.
This game is a BioWare game,
yes,
which is obviously
you could almost say it's the BioWare game.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the game that makes BioWare. This is the first treacherous step for BioWare.
Yeah, this is the beginning of the end. Actually, the end was probably a bit earlier, but never mind that. When it comes to Cotor, you were the one.
I played Cotor.
Yeah, you were the one that played Cotor.
You have played Cotor.
Yes, I played it many times when I was young. Played it sometimes when I was less young. And having watched you play Cotor, I have a feeling that Cotor might be not only one of the worst Star Wars games ever made, it might also be one of the worst RPGs ever made. That's how I honestly feel about it. And I will be clear that when I was young, I thought Cotor was good. I played Cotor several times. On console, in fact.
I'm gonna just stop you here. Stopped. Okay, so we have reached the point where we didn't actually have to introduce Cotor. Technically, we would have to introduce Lethal Alliance a bunch because nobody knows anything about that game. Nobody knows what Lethal Alliance is. I think there's a 2, which means there's, I guess, someone new, but they're probably dead. The proposition for me here is I also fucking hate Cotor. I don't know if it is technically true that Lethal Alliance is a better game than Cotor. I think that is possibly not true. But it is infinitely funnier if we decide right now that Lethal Alliance will be moving on and we rip Cotor a new one. Because these are our opinions.
Yes, let's do that. Lethal Alliance moves on.
Yes, Lethal Alliance,
sweeps
step forward,
Cotor,
step into the abyss.
Yes, it's time to destroy Cotor.
Yes.
If you like Cotor, you're gonna have a bad time, probably.
Maybe not. Maybe you'll be enlightened. My first thing with Cotor I want to talk about, before we even talk about the game at all, because this is like a beloved classic.
Yes.
Everybody loves Cotor for whatever reason. I have a theory, which I have crafted quite recently from spending an amount of time reading like YouTube comments and Reddit threads and stuff like that from Cotor lovers. I will posit the theory now.
Okay.
I have noticed that people who love Cotor, a staggering amount of them, like possibly the majority, when they describe Cotor and their nostalgic love for Kotor, it's always a weird sob story. And they are like abused kids. It's always like, when I was 10 years old, I remember I was 10 years old. The first snow had fallen and my father had just beat me and my dog. He used to beat me every night. But when I first laid my eyes upon Bastila, it was like a soothing light. And now I play it every Christmas to remember that there is actually a way out from pain and misery. And I have to say, that's not Kotor.
No.
There's just a generation of people who had nothing except their dog, which also had nothing. And they both found solace in Kotor. And while that's beautiful, that does not reflect upon the quality of the game.
No. What I find when I read or listen to people talk about Kotor, what I find a lot is that when you ask someone both what they like about Kotor, but also like what's good about it, because to me, I think Kotor has 0 redeemable qualities.
I'll give it maybe 1 or 2 redeemable qualities, but do go on.
Because what I notice is that you can easily start bringing up, the flaws of Kotor, like, the swoop racing is, yikes.
Bad.
Yeah,
It's bad.
It's very, very bad.
bad.
It's no, not gonna sugarcoat it. It's bad. And the combat is just you click, you attack. There's like 1.5 abilities in the entire game. If you like go through the list of the abilities in the game, including the force powers, and you see like, oh, these ones actually do the same thing. These ones you will do for the same reason in the same situation. You'll end up with like there's 1.5 ability in the game, and those abilities are like stun your enemy and destroy the entire room.
Yeah. Okay, and force speed. Those
are
the 3 abilities.
Exactly. So 3 abilities.
Stun enemy, destroy the entire room, and force speed.
Yes, exactly. And then story. Story is subjective. I think the story is pretty boring and bad. The twist is completely whatever. I feel like the twist. Spoilers: you're actually the bad guy in Cotor. Who cares?
Yeah, because you aren't the bad guy, so it doesn't really matter.
The twist doesn't matter at all. The fact that you are Revan does not, really matter at all. It doesn't affect anything story-wise, and more than anything, it's a cheap way of trying to mimic, I am your father twist, because they just want to have that moment.
I'll give them A for effort, I guess. Or maybe not A. C for effort, maybe. I don't think the twist part... It's hard to talk about the twist now. Because not only is it a twist that we obviously know, but they kind of took Revan and ran with it because everyone fucking loves Revan for some reason.
I love Revan. He wears the mask and doesn't afraid of anything.
Yeah, exactly. Like, who is Revan, really? Which sucks. That part sucks. But other than the twist, to me, there are technically 2 things in Cotor which are potentially interesting, both of which are not interesting in reality, story-wise. So number 1 is the whole like, oh, there was a progenitor race of the mega empire of the Apes Odyssey guys,
the Ratatas or whatever.
The sort of problem with that is that Cotor as a setting is just bullshit, because it's just like, oh, if you go back in time infinitely, it's just the same shit. It's always the same shit. Star Wars, it's cyclical. It's like pottery, which makes the whole like, oh, before us there was another Sith empire kind of fucking irrelevant.
Since you bring up now like the setting of Cotor and which later became like, the Old Republic setting, I hate everything about the Old Republic setting because it's incredibly, it's ugly. It's shallow. It doesn't have a Star Wars mood or atmosphere to it. The only things that are, like Star Wars in the Old Republic setting is, there's lightsabers, people shoot lasers. Dude, remember Tatooine and all the environments? Weird and sterile, and I don't like it.
I wouldn't agree that it doesn't feel like Star Wars, because to me it's just like, it's oh, can I copy your homework and then you do it worse? Like, it's just the same shit but worse. I just say it's like a soulless copy.
Yeah,
because
sure.
You could argue, if you don't think that looks like Star Wars, then you could say like, oh, well, Phantom Menace doesn't look like Star Wars.
Yeah, sure.
I just think it's very, very. It's just like, oh, it's the same. Oh, remember the Empire. All their shit is, it's inspired by ancient Sith design. That's why it looks the same. Like, that's bullshit. Yeah. I hate it.
Speaking of the Empire and like the Old Republic, I greatly dislike everything that has to do with, here's 1 million Jedi and also 1 million Sith.
Yeah.
Like, and the Sith, they are evil Jedi with red lightsabers and they want to kill all the Jedi. And then you have stuff like, that one Star Wars The Old Republic cinematic trailer.
Yeah. But sure, but that's not KOTOR though.
Well, it is kind of. You have the Sith Academy where they train evil Draco Malfoy Sith guys
true.
With red lightsabers. And like that entire thing is insane to me. Like, it's a complete who wrote this, where you're going like, welcome to Evil Academy, where you will learn how to be evil. You have now earned your red lightsaber.
It's really funny that the Old Republic as a setting, really, really, if it does anything, is that it absolutely makes the rule of 2 seem like a fucking reasonable ass choice,
like
because they're like,
move.
Our system was that we made everyone super egotistical, omega evil, and mega edgy. and we trained 1 million.
I'm like, okay, the rule of 2, that's probably the way to go.
Yeah.
So that's pretty funny.
It's just completely like, I mean, everything in Star Wars just ruins everything in Star Wars. But I'm still gonna say that, it just ruins everything in Star Wars. Because take Darth Vader and Palpatine in Star Wars, and it's like, just in the movies, like, forget everything else. In the movies, it's like, oh, check it out, it's Darth Vader. Darth Vader wears all black and has a red lightsaber and he's super evil. Isn't that cool? What a bad guy. And then, later on you get introduced to, here's the Emperor, he's Darth Vader's boss. And he's like, if Darth Vader is the Black Knight, then Palpatine is like the sorcerer. And so on. And the entire thing with like, the Sith are the enemies of the Jedi, but there's only 2 of them. But these 2 are a big deal, and they work in the shadows because they're evil and wear black and all that kind of stuff. And it becomes so stupid when you have 1 million Darth Vaders who are. It's like, what are they supposed to do? Are they just supposed to choke each other all the time? And that is what they do. That's what's so stupid about it. I mean. I hate it. It removes, the mystique, like the charisma of evil kind of stuff. It just goes completely gone, and it becomes Slytherin.
They're all Skeletor in the Old Republic. I watched someone talk about KOTOR just to sort of freshen up my memory a bit of the game earlier this week. Because we played this, like 2 years ago?
Yeah, like a million years ago.
Something like that.
A long time ago, etc.
Exactly, in a room far, far away from here.
Yes.
I watched someone talk about it, and it was interesting to hear them talk about the sort of the setting, because KOTOR technically, before there is the Old Republic setting specifically, I don't know if it's called the Old Republic, but there was, there was like comics and stuff for KOTOR.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah, they're about some guy called Zane Carrick or something.
But there's like the bigger backdrop with like the Mandalorian Wars and
why. Oh yeah, you mean the very early comics? Like...
Well, I'm talking about like why, because Revan is in those as well, which is like, but there's like, the Jedi they're not fucking around, the Mandalorian Wars are going on and they're not intervening and blah blah blah, that kind of shit, which is sort of the backdrop to KOTOR. Why Revan becomes bad, because he leaves the Jedi Council because he feels like they're not. Why aren't you going to war? Blah blah blah. And it was interesting to hear someone basically say like, KOTOR puts up a really interesting point of view in which it sort of looks at the Jedi Council and the Jedis in general and makes them more morally gray, or like they're kind of like bad people sort of because they're just sitting on the bylines and they're like something like that. And I thought that was super interesting because to me, you already have that in the prequel trilogy. The prequels aren't like the Jedis are based. Like
no.
The prequels are like
the prequels portray the Jedi extremely badly.
Yeah, they're fucking incompetent, and
I don't believe that to be like this is like a meta fan interpretation. No. They are clearly portrayed as bad.
Yeah, not just bad in the way of like, well, are they morally bankrupt or not? But they're like, as an organization, they are incompetent, which is why you have people like Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan who are like doing stuff.
Yeah.
Whether or not Qui-Gon did the right thing is debatable in the end, but at least he did something, right?
You can't get it right all the time.
Yeah. Anyway, it was interesting to me to hear someone say that, because to me, this sort of meta point from KOTOR, which is, I don't know if you could say it is actually what they're doing, but if you believe that is what the game is trying to do, sort of let's put the Jedi under a lens and analyze them. Magnify, I think it's really weird to come out of that now, especially it was an American who made this sort of thing I watched. In a like post 9/11, post Iraq, post Afghanistan situation, and look at the Jedi Council and go like, these guys aren't interventionist enough. Why aren't they like the galactic super police? Like That to me seems like a pretty rational choice for a group of monks to be like, well, I guess the Mandalorians are popping off, but they're gonna do what they're gonna do.
Let them cook.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously at some point they do, I think, go to war, right? Whatever, something the Republic, who cares?
I don't give a shit.
I thought about that for a bit, like, oh, maybe this is an interesting point for KOTOR, but it isn't. It just sucks.
Yeah. I don't remember if I said this already, but if I did, I'm gonna say it again. When you ask someone what they think is good about KOTOR, they will say, the swoop racing is bad, the combat is bad, the story is bad, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll say, but the game is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, this is what really baffles me about people that are like die-hard KOTOR fans. Like, what do you actually like about it? Because it's like, I've been playing a lot of BioWare games recently. I realized as we were, getting ready to record this, because I've been playing it. I've been playing some Dragon Age lately, which
what a banger.
Yeah, that's one. I'm saving that one for Dragon Age Sting. It's really hitting home to me how BioWare games are just like, it's a visual novel, like this game. And when people talk about these games, and like something like KOTOR, because KOTOR, it has turn-based combat, like or dislike turn-based combat, that can be subjective. But there in BioWare games, especially KOTOR, there's no tactics in this game. You are not making decisions in this game when it comes to like combat scenarios.
Well, okay, I will agree with you, but I think this is sort of this. The critique for me is like, well, the combat sucks, but a game like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 also has shit combat.
Yes.
It's just that people believe stuff happens in KOTOR, which isn't true.
I was gonna get to that. Like, there's a delusion about this game, because how RPGs work when it comes to combat, most of the time the combat is pretty shallow, and the system is imported from some tabletop role-playing game, and you have stuff like, you got strength, dexterity, constitution, and so on, but they have been changed to work in a computer game setting. What you end up with is usually, the combat is a bit, it's shallow, it's pretty simplistic, but, this is about the RP, it's about immersion, it's about, it's how you build your character, it's, your party composition. And what's insane to me when people talk about KOTOR and play KOTOR is that, like, I can kind of barely, accept that there are something kind of minusculely resembling builds in KOTOR. And those two builds are either you have AoE Force Lightning and destroy every room in one round, or you do not have that.
Yeah.
And you do not do that. Or you're a contrarian and you use blasters, because that gives you the illusion that you are building a character outside of the meta of the game.
But the blaster shit, which I believe is mentioned in the review of the game, which we'll get to, that doesn't matter. I guess it might matter. Like, you could argue that it matters for the game in like a zoomed out perspective, but I'll argue that you cannot stumble into that shit.
No.
It's impossible. The game is kind of shitty, I think. It's shitty in a way that makes some people believe that they can argue for being like a replayable game.
Yeah.
Something like, oh, well, it turns out that double blaster build is like all right, which is something like you have to play. If you play the game 3 times and you're like some mega grognard.
If you're playing blaster build, you're doing it to make, a YouTube video of you blasting Darth Malak for 5 minutes at the end and check out how cool blasters are.
But the first people who found that, they were at that point like going out of their way to make that.
Nobody played blasters their first playthrough of KOTOR.
And the game sort of pushes you super heavily into, you're a Jedi now, by the way. So, of course, every motherfucker on the planet used a lightsaber. Like, come on. And for the lightsaber, you get 2 options, which is like chop more or do lightning. And chop more kind of sucks.
Yeah.
because
you don't need to chop more, because you could just force lightning.
Exactly. Game also does this thing which replayer idiots love, which is that when you become a Jedi, you pick a class in the beginning.
Yes.
And then when you become a Jedi, you get to pick a subclass of Jedi again, basically. You pick a class and then you pick a class. And they go, well, if you get do as few side shit as possible before you turn into a Jedi. You get more levels as a Jedi, which means you can become a stronger Jedi, I guess.
So it's like you're already punished for like playing the game before you even become a Jedi, which you have to become. I'll also add that, these 3 classes you pick in the beginning, they're like, they don't really matter at all, but they're called like, soldier, scout, whatever.
Yeah, you just pick the one that gives you the most feats, because feats are broken.
And it's funny because I was going to get to that in this game, you have, like the RPG standards of like you got your stats and your skills that you put skill points into, and then you have feats. It's like, it's Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, the skills are like completely useless, all of them, because all the skills are stuff like, lock picking, computer hacking, you plant mine, or stuff like that. And these skills are, it's so funny to me that because, okay, the skills might not be that important, who cares if they're good or not, but there's a class, in the 2 classes, like the Jedi version of the class and the original version of the class, that are focused on skills. So it's like, these classes get more skill points, so you can put even more skill points into plant mine. Or exactly. It's completely because what you do in the game, and this is the kind of thing with what RPGs do to the brain of people who, when they try to get immersed in the game, they see stuff like, oh, look where I put my feats, I put my skill points here or there, but these skills, like they don't affect anything. They don't really do anything. Well, when it comes to what you spend your time doing.
Yeah, exactly. In the game. They don't change how you play the game.
Yeah, because what you do in the game is you just fight. Room after room of enemies. When you're not fighting, you're doing stuff like, bashing open this container. If I put skills in open container, I can open it instead. But it's like, I mean...
The biggest problem with that as well is that if, let's say you're a character who's like, well, my guy's a rogue. I'm a roguish scoundrel, and I'm a lockpicker and mine layer. If you pick those things, not only do they not, it's not like you're like, oh, my character gets to open this door and now I get another ending. It's not like that.
It's now you get an adrenaline stim and 8 credits.
Yeah, but you also, if you don't pick that, will get a party member that is maxed out in doing everything.
Yes.
That isn't being a killer Jedi. So being a killer Jedi is always objectively the best thing to do.
And if you're gonna be a killer Jedi, take Force Lightning.
Yes.
Because that's how you kill the most.
And the fastest.
Yes. And you do not have to be dark side to take Force Lightning. You can be light side. And
you don't have to watch an animation, the same animation of some saber combat roll 400 times. You get to kill way more sand people way faster.
Yes.
Because you're gonna have to kill.
Like, imagine if...
waves and waves and waves of sand people.
Like, imagine if Anakin had Force Lightning build in Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
Instead of having to,
I would have been like
one
this.
by one. That's how it is. What do you think about the companions in Cotor?
Well, I think I'm on record on saying that I hate every character in Cotor except Canderous.
Yes.
So I think I will stay with that opinion. I only like Canderous because he also seems to be having a very bad time.
Yes. My opinion of the companions in Cotor is that they're basically all bad, except for Canderous, who is okay. And one of the reasons why Canderous is okay, to me, Cotor is like the entire game is just this weird copy of A New Hope, plot-wise and character-wise. You can really tell it in the companions because you have, you have the sassy princess style character. You have the funny rolling droid. You have Karf, who is just a moron.
Yeah.
Then you have Plucky Smuggler, Mission, and her Wookiee buddy, who wears a life debt to her. And then, who's like, all right, you have the the wizened old Jedi with a twist in Cotor that they made him really mean. And then you have, you know, the BioWare trademark droid/construct companion who is very sarcastic or sociopathic, you know.
I hate the HK droids.
Yeah, HK is not cool, and HK is also something that is always brought up as like, this is such a great character. I love HK.
If someone says meatbag to me, I know that they love the Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Fucking bazinga ass nerd, fuck off and leave me alone.
I'm getting upset talking about this.
I think something to me, because you brought it up now that, oh well, this is something that's in every BioWare game. When I say BioWare game, to me the thing that exemplifies that design is you have the game ostensibly says, okay, this is a game where you make choices. This is a game where you can be a character. You're gonna roleplay. And how this works out, and you could argue that for KOTOR it's like, well, you gotta give the game a break. It's one of the first times they tried this shit, sort of, which is all well and good, but that doesn't really impact the quality of the game. It still kind of sucks. But you basically go into the game is you have a guild hall, and you go into dungeons, and the dungeons here are just planets. Instance dungeons, and in every dungeon you have some side quests and you have a main quest. And the main quest basically it sort of boils down to, you can be Wizard of Oz, fucking goody two-shoes. You can be the nicest person in the universe, which sometimes means you're also weirdly racist, because this is kind of old and made by a lot of white people in America. You can be sort of neutral, which means you're Futurama neutral man.
I have no strong feelings one way or the other.
Which means nothing of consequence happens, sort of. Or people hate you for it. Or you can be bad, which is you always kill people every chance given.
Yeah. And if there is no opportunity to kill people, you just say mean things
to
them.
You're super mean to them.
Yeah.
And this is just, the game tries to tell you that there's an overarching thing to this, but there isn't. You do these instances and you can pick whatever you want every single time.
Yes.
And at some point the game just, you know, there's like a screen somewhere that says your overall bad good rating that is completely irrelevant, and you can flip-flop, and there's no internal consistency, and like at worst maybe a character will go like,
okay, you've gone too far now. I've got to get out of here.
After you have savagely raped and destroyed 18 civilizations.
They'll do that at the very end of the game.
Exactly.
Like specifically in KOTOR, like when you're on the last planet or whatever, and you get like the message that says, if you pick this dialogue choice, you are finally completely evil. Or something like that, because up until that point, also true for every BioWare game, even if you are evil, you are always you're just an asshole. Exactly. You're not evil. You're still a heroic Jedi who is doing missions to save the galaxy. You just wear all black and have a red lightsaber.
You're Batman,
and you're mean to people. So it's
no nonsense.
It's dumb. You just reminded me of the entirety of Mass Effect and the Renegade Paragon thing. With the fucking, you know, my face is becoming evil. It's like there's no force in Mass Effect, you know, because you get the dark side force stuff face in KOTOR, but no, fuck Mass Effect. We're not talking about Mass Effect.
No,
not like Mass Effect either. But yeah, did you know that there are swords in KOTOR? You can use regular swords if you want to, instead of, you know, the lightsaber. You know what I love doing in KOTOR with my regular sword? Hit a door for 5 million years with my, you know, razor thin sword, and the door is made out of like 5 Death Stars thick giga space steel, and it's like bling, 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 and then the door goes opens up. It's like, yeah, I bashed it. Like, bash your brains in, whoever made this. It's like, and they have the worst impact, worst game feel. It's such a carryover from, you know, this is a Dungeons & Dragons game. We gotta have swords because, you know, there could be swords in Star Wars. Of course there could be. It's not about that. It's that the swords look stupid.
I fucking hate swords in Star Wars, and I fucking hate vibro blades as well. Shut the fuck up with your vibroblade. I hate the idea that it's like, well, you have lightsabers that are literally like, it's like a miniature sun.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, you obviously can't use a normal sword, but you can use this vibro Vibroblade. What? You can... Why?
Yeah,
Why?
And I don't like because it's also,
Dude, it's a hypersonic. It's a hypersonic vibroblade.
Look, listen. It's fine for the Gamorrean guard to have an axe.
Yeah.
Because he's a...
That's a fucking pig.
Yeah, it's like this giga...
You can't give him a blaster, he's a pig.
Exactly. It's like this Giga Shad pig-ass Legend of Zelda-looking orc moblin idiot standing, guard somewhere in a desert in a little weird castle. And of course he gets to have an axe because he probably just chops up, lizards all day in the sand being lost or whatever.
Yeah.
But when it's like regular Star Wars society, like everyone on Terrace in Cotor,
exactly.
and it's like, hey, we're the gangers on Terrace, like this should be some Necromunda shit or whatever.
Exactly.
And but then it's like, it's just these morons walking around with their little razor swords, and it's like, hey, this is our territory, Buster. Why you get out of here? See? And it's like, why don't these guys just have guns, all of them? Like everyone should just be using guns, and then the lightsaber is a completely thing to people because gun not work on lightsaber. They fight in melee. That's so special. I don't like it. It's dumb.
Yeah, I guess you could argue that it's less weird for the protagonist to be able to use a sword than everyone else. Everyone else shouldn't. But I agree with you. Should we read the reviews for this?
Sure.
Okay, since we've spent the maximally allotted time speaking about KOTOR, let's start with the Lethal Alliance review.
Yes.
The game which is moving on, by the way. Wait. Before we do this, let's put right here. Okay, I can point at you here, and but whatever. Let's put right here 1 minute of uninterrupted Lethal Alliance gameplay right here.
Okay.
Yeah!
Okay, read the review.
The review for Star Wars Lethal Alliance. The game is trash and controls like garbage. There is one music track throughout the whole game that is on repeat constantly, except when it is silent for 9 hours. Extremely pointless abilities. Twi'leks are cringe. Weird design all around, and extremely Ubisoft with the do context-sensitive thing times 1,000.
Oh yeah, it's an Uncharted game.
Everything feels like it's underwater. Incomprehensible story that could not be followed because all cutscenes run at 1 million speed. Death Star plans thief number 30,925,626. Kyle Katarn was in the game and looked like a moron. If you have to give the game something, it obviously had ideas but could not realize them on any level. The only thing the game has going for it is that it is an attempt at a game where you are not a Jedi, but it has been done before and better. All the weapons were the worst. What the fuck is Alliance Meter? Leia looks like the Morpheus AI in Deus Ex. A good thing was that the alien languages were properly voice acted, not KOTOR's Bjelfan Gelfen.
Oh yeah, fucking KOTOR. Fucking KOTOR. Even here KOTOR rears its ugly ass fucking head. Give me the KOTOR review and I'll blast off.
The review for Star Wars Cotor.
Thank you. KOTOR 1 is like a single-player MMO without all the actual quality of life options like return to ship. This leads to some planets like Korriban being extremely this is a questline/dungeon quite okay. On the other hand, all the other planets are not quite as well realized in their at least not shitness. Terrace is shit. All party members except Canderous are shit. Canderous is cool. The game is extremely simple. That is a good thing because the combat is 15 rungs below 1999 EverQuest combat levels of pressing a button, nothing works, everything is shit levels of game design. The writing is generally ass, but it's fun that you get to dunk on the party members, even if the game tries to super railroad you into making you think that Karth and his moron minions are cool. Minigames are a solid 0 out of 10, way worse than Shadows of the Empire, which is very old and also, let me check, not that good. There is only one class, the variation is Chop More or Lightning More, but both do everything. Only meta build is Meat Blasters. This is Google translated. Something the game will 1000% never ever push you towards. Why doesn't the game push you towards meat? Malek is a bitch. Bastila is a mega whore. Everything is trash. I don't even know who Juhani is. And then it says in parentheses Lilu, so that's me. It's positive that you often know where to go, even if it takes an infinite amount of time to go / change party members / talk to idiots. That's KOTOR.
Good job.
Any closing words before we... Well, okay, maybe we reiterate. KOTOR is obviously dead.
Yes.
We'll see how KOTOR 2 does.
Yes. We're gonna give it to Cotor 2 too.
Maybe. Maybe we'll love KOTOR 2.
We'll see.
We'll see. Lethal Alliance moves on in an upset.
Yes.
Maybe it's Dark Horse.
I am more upset than Lethal Alliance is upset. Because I get upset thinking about Cotor, and I know that...
I got it.
Hang on! What the fuck did I do wrong? Tell me!